Spirit of wisdom, open our hearts and eyes. May only truth be spoken, may only truth be heard, we ask. Amen. As we draw closer to Good Friday and to the cross in our journey through Lent, we find ourselves facing the mystery of evil. Often we don't take evil seriously. I remember back in the day, I don't know whether you remember it too, I enjoyed a comedian, Flip Wilson, and his signature line was, "The devil made me do it." And I thought that was hilarious, and so my buddies and I would always play practical jokes on each other. And then when they get mad because we did a joke on them, we'd say, "The devil made me do it." Of course, God and the devil are not people. They're not characters. We use those words to try and talk about the powers in this universe that have competing values. The Apostle Paul said a very wise thing. He said, we wrestle, we struggle, we fight not against flesh and blood, not against particular people. Trump isn't the problem. It's the powers of greed and domination that put him there and support him. That's the problem. He's their puppet. Paul wrote, our fight is with principalities and powers in high places. The people behind the scenes who want to dominate and take more than their share. The players always change in this struggle. But the struggle, the battle between cooperation and competition, between greed and sharing, between inclusion and hate, between all of God's children being blessed and the favored few being blessed, that's really the drama of history. People are not evil, but we can be taken over by evil. And if we look at history, it's sobering how easy that can happen at times. We can even support evil and not know it. All it takes is indifference to the plight of the other, to those we view as different than us. Slavery for hundreds of years was just the cost of doing business to most Christians. Think about that. After all, slaves were subhuman. That's what the experts said. But Jesus, when he saw it, wept. Men didn't see any problem with women not being legal persons and not having to vote. In fact, men thought they were doing humanity and women a service by not allowing them to assume positions that all the experts said were beyond their fragile natures to endure. Exactly. Wow, that's pretty cool. You didn't get to see that. But that's the language that was used if you go back in the 1910s and 20s and read the newspaper articles. Too fragile to endure. But the cosmic Christ wept when he saw it. Our government and churches thought it was a noble thing to rescue the primitive Indian children from their superstitions. Let's make them like us, we thought. But when we think people are lesser than us, it always leads to abuse. And the government didn't mind because their agenda was to get the Indians to disappear and their treaties with them. Government regulations setting up the residential school systems expressly said that the goal was to kill the Indian in them. But Jesus, when he saw it, wept. It seems it's quite easy to think people are less than us when we perceive them to be different than us, and then they don't deserve what we have. It's rather frightening to see how easy it can be to get people angry and afraid of others and then make them feel self-righteous about actually harming others and killing them if we want something they have. The world the past week has been observing the 25th anniversary of the Rwandan genocide. About 85% of Rwandans were Hutus, but the Tutsi minority had more wealth and had the greater political influence, including the monarchy. In 1959, the Hutus overthrew the Tutsi monarchy, and tens of thousands of Tutsis fled to the neighboring countries, including Uganda. Some Tutsis began organizing resistance to take power back. And on April 1994, an airplane carrying the Rwandan president and the Hutu president Burundi was shot down as it prepared to land, killing everyone on board. Responsibility for the attack was disputed, but the Hutu leaders began to whip up fear and anger against the Tutsis, saying they're responsible, and these are the exact words used. They are cockroaches that need to be exterminated. By the point you get to be able to call somebody a cockroach, you're ready to hurt them and to see them be hurt. More than 1 million people, overwhelmingly Tutsi, but also moderate Hutu and those who opposed the genocide, were systematically killed in less than 3 months. It's hard to get my head around. These were people who had lived together successfully for over 100 years. Our own general, Romeo Dallaire, was there with the United Forces, with the United Nations troops. And he still suffers from the memory of the Security Council ordering him to stand down and do nothing. Why? Because to the West, there was nothing they wanted from that part of the world, so let them go to it. And he still suffers from post-traumatic stress today. And Jesus, when he saw it, wept. Here's what the General Secretary of the United Nations wrote for the anniversary commemoration. Our reflection on the Rwandan genocide must go beyond one country and one moment in history. We must take a hard look at the present as we renew our resolve to prevent such atrocities from ever happening again. We are seeing dangerous trends of rising prejudice, racism, and intolerance in many parts of the world. Particularly troubling is the current widespread proliferation of hate speech and incitement to violence, things that were very clearly present in Rwanda immediately before the genocide. They are an affront to our values and threaten human rights, social stability, and peace. The massacre at 2 mosques in New Zealand a few weeks ago is just the latest tragedy rooted in such poison. Wherever they occur, these evils should be identified, confronted, and stopped to prevent them leading, as they have in the past, to hate crimes and genocide. The capacity for evil resides in all societies, but so too do the qualities of understanding, kindness, justice, and reconciliation. There it is, that cosmic battle. It's a battle we humans are born into. Are we all family, deserving of work, a home, food, education, and health care, or are whole groups of people expendable? Jesus was acutely aware of how Rome's policies of greed and violence were harming his people. And he knew that the leaders thought they were doing the right thing by working with Rome to keep the peace, enjoying the benefits, of course. But he knew that the leaders were in for a rude and sad awakening. He goes up the hill overlooking Jerusalem to pray, and he weeps, not for himself, but for his people and the rulers, because you can never partner with injustice and walk away unscathed. You know, I tell that to youth all the time and anybody who will listen. Don't give your heart. Don't spend your time. Don't go in business with anybody who's not kind, respectful, and fair. They may razzle-dazzle. They may have gifts. You may feel they've got great potential. But if they are not kind, respectful, and fair, it will not end well. Jesus said, if you only knew today what's needed for peace. But now you cannot see it. The time will come when your enemies will surround you with barricades, blockade you, and close in on you from every side. They will completely destroy you and the people within your walls. Not a single stone will they leave in its when God came to save you. And that's what's happened. By the time Mark was written, Rome had destroyed that temple brick by brick to the ground. Rome needed to pay for its Colosseum. And so it trashed the temple and took every valuable object. Rome invaded every wealthy home and took everything and then burnt all the orchards for good measure. Jesus, when he saw it, wept. I wonder what the living Christ weeps about today. The same things, I guess, that Jesus wept about 2,000 years ago. Growing rates of poverty with all the struggle and sickness and hardship for children and the lost opportunities that go with it. 20% of children in Canada live in poverty. You know, I know some of you, when you grew up, life was pretty tough. You were poor, but most everybody else was too. It feels really different when you're poor and most everybody else isn't. 50% of Indigenous children in Canada live in poverty. 50%. And the poverty level of children in the States, they don't have a good number. It ranges from anywhere between 21 and 35%. I grew up thinking it needed to be that way. I grew up thinking that there wasn't enough money to go around, but there's plenty of money. It's just too much of it is in the wrong hands. Now let me be clear. I don't see anywhere in the Bible that Jesus or God's a communist. There's no problem with people having more money. I wish in this world we had way more millionaires and less billionaires. It's just that in our families, we don't take a trip to Florida unless all the kids are taken care of, right? And once we've got all the children taken care of, and everybody's got a roof, and the opportunity for a job, hey, more power to you if you can make more money. But our governments are broke today. And our corporations and the 1% have never had so much money. Get this, I just saw a program on CBS the other night. Do you know that most of the billions upon billions of dollars that the American government poured into the economy during the Obama administration to prevent its collapse, the credit crunch? Do you remember that problem? Most of the billions of dollars that were put in to prop up the banks ended up going into the very pockets of the people who created the problem in the first place. Friends, things are terribly wrong. Do you know that Amazon made $10 billion last year? Guess how much they paid in federal taxes? Nothing. You say, well, how can that be? Berkshire Hathaway, the Oracle of Omaha. What's his name? Huh? Warren Buffett. He's a real Christian. And he spoke up some years ago, and he said it's wrong that my secretary pays more taxes than I do. This doesn't happen by accident, friends. Do you know in Canada today, now in Canada in 1952, personal and corporate income taxes were equal. Today, Canadians are paying 3.5 times what corporations are paying. I mean, isn't that crazy? In the past 6 years, our top 100 companies have avoided paying $62 billion in taxes because of tax loopholes. That probably would have taken care of our federal deficit those last 6 years. And when Jesus saw it, he wept. Now, we've all heard the lies. And these lies come from think groups that rich people set up. The Koch brothers contribute and set up groups in every state and in Canada as well, with their own economists and with their own scientists who deny that climate change is caused by human beings. And so whenever there's a news article, they get two sides, right? This is the side you hear, and this is the side we hear from our politicians. These are the lies. We've been told that we need to get more money in the hands of the wealthy because they're the ones who will invest it and create jobs. Sounds good, right? It's just that they don't do it. I remember being amazed at the honesty of the former finance minister Jim Flaherty under the Harper government. After giving corporations in Canada the biggest tax cut in history, he said with exasperation at a news conference, "We gave you the money to invest, but you haven't invested it." Go figure. How about this law? You know, if we cut taxes, it'll actually raise more taxes. Eh? You heard that one? Yeah. You'll be hearing that one in the next year. The first one to say that was Ronald Reagan, and he created the biggest deficits in U.S. history at that point. Do you remember this one? We can't afford to raise the minimum wage in Ontario because companies will go out of business. The current government is saying that lie again as they cancel wages going to $15 an hour. Meanwhile, the facts are, overall, no jobs were lost in Ontario after the minimum wage went up. In fact, more jobs were added. God weeps that we're destroying the precious earth we've been given so generously. Do you know that fish caught in the far north and out in the wilderness, which you just think would be pristine, have mercury poisoning? That's because the arsenic used in gold mines from around the world goes into the air and pollutes everywhere. And when Jesus saw it, he wept. And parents too cry over the deaths of their children caused by cancer. Jesus came closer to the city, and when he saw it, he wept, saying, "If you only knew today what is needed for peace." Peace can only come with fairness, with dignity and respect for everyone. There are solutions. We're told there's no solutions. We're doing the best we can. There are solutions. Look how far we've come in 2,000 years. God's always at work, repairing the damage of natural disasters, working through people of goodwill to overturn the tables of greed and the policies of hate and exclusion. Creation's always renewing itself. That is the nature of God. God is in the business of making all things new again. And we can't separate our faith from our politics because Jesus didn't, and God doesn't. Love has no meaning if we don't care about people who have less than they should and who are not treated fairly. Life has no meaning if we poison our earth home. We're all together God's family, which is why Jesus was willing to give his life to set things right and to make things new again. I'm always inspired by those who see this clearly and walk the talk. I met Timothy Naboja at Princeton in the United States in a week course. He was currently the resident theologian at Knox Presbyterian College in Toronto. He told me that he had started setting up different civil groups. He set up a women's group, a labor group, educational council, so that he could take the message of what the people were experiencing and needed to the president. The president of his country in Africa didn't appreciate it. One day when he came home from work, he went in and he saw his house, and all the wires and everything had been stripped from the house, even taken out of the walls. And as he went out, the people who had done it were just leaving him, and one of them saw him. He went with a machete, and he went to cut off his head, and Timothy put up his hand and cut his hand off. And then he went to try again, and Timothy looked him in the eye, and he said, "Father, forgive him. He doesn't know what he's doing." And the guy just froze, dropped the machete, and ran off. 6 months later at his church, a hit squad from the government came in and sprayed the place with bullets, and Timothy was hit. And it was after that he went to Canada to cool things down for a couple of years. I said, "Timothy, how can you risk so much?" He says, "I like to have a good time, and I do, and my family does. And I've got no death wish. That's why I've come to Canada for 2 years to let things simmer down. But if I am silent in the face of so much suffering, I can't know joy or real pleasure in my life. If I cut myself off from my community to save my own skin, who will support me and my family in our hour of need?" we aren't in his situation. Great sacrifices are often not asked of us, but sacrifices are. We are involved in this cosmic struggle, this battle for respect and what is fair, and the things we do each day, thoughtfully, intentionally, and with love, done out of a desire to bless all of God's creation. That's what gives our lives meaning. Because we become channels for God to do more through us than we can imagine, than we'll ever know this side of heaven. That's why Jesus left the hill he was on and went to Jerusalem, knowing the risk in front of him. But knowing even more deeply that what is done for the sake of love, respect, and fairness can never be lost, and is the only sure way of making things right, making them new again. Thanks be to God.